Wet, soggy feet while backpacking in the snow? Check. Water bladder breaking on a dry section in the Grand Canyon? Check. After 2 decades of backpacking experience, here are a few big time mistakes I've made as a beginner and admittedly an expert, and what I do differently next time. I don't claim to be perfect, and a big part of what I do is humility and honesty. If you feel compelled to make snarky comments on my video, you're new ones too. And remember, experience breeds complacency. So let's celebrate the lessons that we learned the hard way. One of the biggest mistakes newbies make is understanding mileage. Not all miles are created equally, and pacing is important in backpacking. I section hiked the Colorado Trail, and when I first got started, I was terrible at judging how far I had gone. Now, this is before tools like smartwatches, AllTrails, and easy-to-use GPS devices. I remember segment 2, which is a rugged, sun-soaked, boring burn area. I really learned my lesson. I thought I had covered 2 more miles than I actually had. You can imagine how frustrated I was to go over hill after rolling hill only to discover we weren't there yet. Understanding your personal pace comes with a lot of time, and it will change from hiking to backpacking. Terrain matters too. Logging miles in the Grand Canyon is nothing like, say, my pace on the Colorado Trail. But here's a good rule of thumb. Most hikers move at an average pace of roughly 2 miles per hour or 1 hour per 1,000 feet of vertical gain, whichever is slower. You can add in some time for breaks if you're really new, but generally, this trick includes small breaks in the timing. Understand that sometimes you'll move quick and sometimes you'll move slow. It can even depend on the day you're hiking. Your body may just go slow that day. Needless to say, you can use this as an estimate to judge your day and see where you stack up. It is definitely not a race. You don't win any prizes for going quickly, but it's good data to keep in mind for planning your trip. Another big newbie mistake I've made, more times than I'm willing to admit, is not testing your water filter before you go. On a season opening trip in the rugged Gore Range of Colorado, we got to our destination only to find that our water filter was clogged despite cleaning it out after every single trip. Sometimes this happens from calcium buildup with certain filters, Sawyer, and you won't notice it when you're back flushing your filter. It's gotta be dry for you to check. Just recently, I was on a long distance trail run and I got to my water source only to find my filter was yet again clogged. The last time I used it, I back flushed it and did a calcium treatment, which is essentially soaking it in a vinegar solution, see the show notes, and it still wouldn't push water through. This meant I sadly got rid of my Sawyer filter, and honestly, after years of using them, I can't recommend them anymore. Luckily, I always carry a backup. I've got aqua tabs for most situations, and in heavily sedimented places, like the rivers of the American Southwest, I carry a P&G purifying packet, because this will settle the sediment as well as purify the water. You can always boil your water. 2 minutes at a boil will get rid of all the mean bugs. This is fine for short trips, but for longer trips, you can run into fuel consumption trouble. I could write an entire book on all the problems I've had with footwear over the years. Waterproof footwear doesn't last forever, and I learned this the hard way on a snowy backpack in the Maroon Bells wilderness of Colorado. I had my trusty Loa boots, a pair that have served me well for almost 10 years since I only really wear boots in wet weather, and it turns out that my favorite pair had sprung a leak. The trail was a literal creek, running swiftly, and my feet got super wet. It totally sucked when the sun started to set, and I was super unhappy. I always pack an extra pair of socks because camp socks are the best and you'll have a fresh pair if something gets wet. However, in a sick twist of fate, I took a misstep with my camp shoes on and got my spare pair wet too. We were only out for a couple of nights, so we used our stove to mostly dry the socks, and then I stuffed them in my sleeping bag overnight. But it meant that I didn't have coffee in the morning, and it definitely sucked to burn through all that fuel. And here's my next big newbie mistake. This one I haven't personally made, but my partner has. Get properly fitted for your bag. Nothing screams pain quite like having a pack that is too big or too small for you. And keep in mind, pack sizes are based on your torso size, so your pack size might actually really surprise you. I'm 5'8" and I wear a small because I'm all legs, baby. To get properly fitted, you need to put your phone down, go into an actual store with pack fitters, talk to a human, and get a fit. Improperly fitted packs are terrible on your body. It causes undue back and hip pain, as well as shoulder pain, and can make breathing a really big challenge. And this means that you may get started with backpacking without a properly fitted pack, and frankly hate it simply because your bag isn't right for your body. One thing beginners often overlook are the load limiters. These are the straps on the top of your bag. They should be pulled tight to pull the weight of the pack towards your body. The shoulder strap should be snug around the back of your shoulders and all the way through, and the widest part of the hip belt should sit snugly on the bony part of your hips. So that way the weight of the bag sits mostly on your hips and not your shoulders. To load your pack properly, you want your heaviest things, typically your water and your food, against your back and as close to the lower middle of your pack as possible. This puts the weight on your hips and distributes it more evenly. Take any load straps and cinch them down as tight as you can once you're all packed up to compress the contents of the bag as much as possible. Say goodbye to those salty chips and hello to salty crumbs. Loosen the hips and shoulder straps as much as possible before putting on your pack. Put your pack on and lean forward. Next, align your hip belt in the proper location while still leaning forward. Clip and cinch your hip belt and tighten. Make sure that that hip belt is below your navel. Keep on leaning forward and pull the shoulder straps until they are tight. Now the weight should be distributed appropriately on your hips. Lastly, tighten down those load limiters and adjust the chest strap so it's snug, but not compressing your rib cage into oblivion. If you want even more tips and tricks for how to pack your bag properly, you're going to want to check out my next video where I do a head-to-head test using a compression sack versus a stuff sack for all of your sleeping essentials.